Hello, welcome back. It is week 140 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
It's me, dear friends, alive and kicking. Well, alive anyway. We had a great show for you today. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. And I when I came into this show today with the album that we're going to talk about, and it's the new Ariana Grande. I wasn't, spoiler alert, very excited about it, and I was thinking you were going to feel the same. So we might have a little bit of a boring time here, but sounds like you've got some thoughts, so I'm excited to hear those later on. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on in the world of social media, and something that specifically TikTok, that has had a lot to do with kind of the state of music today. It's been a huge way to break new artists and new songs, and kind of just rig those streaming numbers a little bit, and kind of get yourself a little more slice of the pie with everybody just kind of getting your content for like fractions of a penny, basically. But there's talk now that TikTok could possibly be banned in the United States because it's owned by a Chinese company, and or by China, I guess. Do companies exist? I don't know. However it works, it's not owned by a US company, and that's a problem for the US government, due to censorship, communication laws, things, all sorts of stuff. But it's gonna, I think, have a huge effect on labels' abilities to break new artists, and also to keep their current artists on their roster relevant, because you have this huge avenue that, everybody listening here may not use TikTok, but there's like 150 million people in the country that do use TikTok. So it's a sizable portion of the population that's very familiar with how things work on there, and probably do get a lot of their news, their music, like little clips of comedy shows, their laughs. Like it's the wall from Fahrenheit 451. Like it's just the entertainment for entertainment's sake. And it's been a huge thing for the music industry that now may not be an avenue at all. So I don't know if you'd seen anything about that.
Well, first of all, Jeff, I would just like to congratulate us on having the foresight to be lazy enough not to make a TikTok. We were really ahead of the curve on that one.
I thought,
So,
I thought about that today.
you know,
Exactly that.
this incredibly valuable tool, and we said, fuck that. We don't need that. We're going to get by on sheer charisma. How's that working out for us?
Hey, well, we just got our first check. So
Oh my God, we did it.
yeah, we did it. So yeah, I don't want to hear it from the haters. This is now a profitable endeavor.
Profitable enterprise. And what enterprise is that? It's youtube.com/c/out on that line. I didn't mean to snake your TikTok thing. I just want to sneak a quick plug in here. It's a quick one today. It's like when an ad comes up, you're enjoying a video, and all of a sudden they do one of those like, oh, my back hurts. Today's sponsor is Stummies. And like, they do some wild stuff. Totally interrupts the flow, makes you mad, makes you want to click off the video. Don't you love when they do that? You can see that and more at youtube.com/c/out on that line. Now, Jeff, back to TikTok.
That was really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's going to have a massive effect. I don't know if it's going to result in more consolidation to, kind of every major songwriter putting their stuff just through already established artists, because there's now one less avenue to break the new ones. Or if they're going to come up with and push another social media, like is Zuckerberg sitting there with Instagram Reels, like Mr. Burns, that just found a way to snake people out of more money. So I don't know. I think it's going to have a huge effect, though.
Well, that's the thing, is like they should just find the like Truth Social equivalent of TikTok, an American company. If your thing is you just don't want to be spied on by a foreign government, I understand that. Your own government does a good enough job of spying on you and everything you do anyway. So an American company could just, I'm sure the proprietary technology for TikTok is not difficult to crack.
Mm-hmm.
You just make it and get the right people behind it and say, we're all going over here. And then I think you preserve that model where it's not just like large scale acts that are kind of putting new music out there, and like Flowers became this huge TikTok
Mhm.
sensation. Um, you also have like artists that otherwise wouldn't have had a prayer. I might be talking out of my ass. Did TikTok give us Oliver Anthony?
It was either TikTok or YouTube, but it was definitely social media that
Okay.
did it. Yeah.
Well, one way or another, there are stories like that all over the place.
Mhm.
And I think there will always be a platform for it. It's just a race to who's going to get there first and
Mhm.
make it as shitty as possible.
Yeah, so that's the thing is everybody's realized like how much money can be made from something like that. So it's not because they want us to have the avenue to be creative and put out content and and put out this music and stuff. Like it's going to make money. That's the whole idea of it, because every third TikTok you go through is an ad. So like clearly there's money pouring into this thing. And if it's just a matter of server space and like just having moderators basically hop on there to keep all the like really bad stuff off and like ban those accounts, I feel like the profit margin's pretty good. And if they can make money on it, that's why they'll do it.
Hey, you know what we call that, Jeff? That's the American dream right there.
Yeah. Yeah, we just need some programmer friends.
You got to look at this exactly. You got to look at the positive here, okay? This is just the American dream in action. It's
Hmm.
everything everyone told you it would be and more at youtube.com/c/out of that line.
Well, what do you say we talk a little bit, maybe a lot of bit, about this Ariana Grande album called Eternal Sunshine? Now, as always, I did notice there was a deluxe edition of this album that came out. As always, I always just listen to the regular normal release. It just kind of that's how it was meant to come out. I feel like that's how we should ingest it as a podcast to be as fair as we can to these things. And I guess we could start with like, what was kind of your overall opinion about Ariana Grande before this, kind of like coming into this whole thing?
Well, first of all, I find it hilarious that a person Ariana Grande's size has the nerve to release anything called deluxe. She
Yeah.
is a tiny porcelain doll. Prior to this, I had a barely functioning knowledge of Ariana Grande. I think one song of hers that I legitimately like is My Hair.
Mhm.
Very sultry, very sexy tune off of the last album, I'm pretty sure. Um, and then you get stuff like Break Up With Your Boyfriend Because I'm Bored. It's, again, we like to say it's not Dylan's Masters of War, but it's fun and it's like got a good hook. And it's one of those ridiculous things. So I knew like a handful of songs. I'm vaguely aware that she has a fetish for ugly dudes. Um, no disrespect to the late great Mac Miller, probably the handsomest of the bunch, but then you got old butthole eyes himself, Pete Davidson. He's the male skank. Yeah, and then this fucking fugly SpongeBob guy who's in the Wicked movie with her. There's a lot. So I'm sorry, I'm jumping way ahead to all the personal stuff. The personal attacks come later. Um, but yeah, as far as her music, I was only ever like casually invested in
Mhm.
it, but always said she carries on in that like Mariah Carey tradition and has that whistle register
Mhm.
or that whistle octave that she can do, which is more impressive than it is beautiful, but she's got a great voice. She's got a really like tight voice.
Yeah.
That is on that I notice in the songs that I like. And we'll get into this album and whether or not that actually made an appearance this time around.
Well, this album overall, I always kind of try to hold off if I know we're doing an album on kind of reading anything about it as far as reviews and kind of I try not to like get other opinions in my head before I give the album a chance and listen to it. I just feel like you're gonna kind of mess yourself up a lot if you try to do that first. But once I'd given it, once or twice through, I started to like kind of search it on Twitter. I was like, okay, how are people generally feeling about it? Because I really didn't have too much of a reaction either way. And that's kind of how I stayed, as I went through it for the third time. So I think at three total times. Um, and generally a lot of the reviews were like very positive um, for the whole album in general. Now, I will say where I'll give it credit is I feel like it was constructed as an album rather than a collection of singles. So I think, as far as that intention, like that's a good thing I can say about it, I guess.
That
Um,
is such faint and damning praise.
yeah, I know it's not saying much.
It was an
And
album.
yeah, and I think, and I mean, I probably heard a ton of her songs. Like we played, I work at a furniture store, a major retail furniture store, and we play like top 40 hits and like just a big mishmash playlist from like all decades, but it's all top 40 stuff. And there's a lot of her songs that play on there. So whether I like to or not, I'm subjected to a lot of her songs, and she really does have. I like how you compared her to like a Mariah Carey. I think she is in that like also like Christina Aguilera kind of vein where it's like they're known for having an incredible voice, like having really, really good control of it and having a lot of places they can go with it. Jennifer Hudson gets that same kind of praise. So like there's a certain level you get to where it's like the talent is undeniable as far as what she's capable of vocally. Now, as far as the songwriting, I've heard worse. I've listened to Taylor Swift. I've now I don't think I'm as down on this as you are, but I'm never ever going to put this in the category of like I think of great pop music as like Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa or Charlie XCX or Billie Eilish. Like that's the kind of stuff where it's like it's pop structures, but lyrically and thematically there's a lot more going on, in a lot of this stuff, which I appreciate. I feel like here it felt very petty. Like I could only get that like sense through the whole time. I'm like, how much do you need to like beat this horse that you stole this girl's husband? Like how many times do we need to go over this on this album that you feel kind of bad that she's hurt, but what can you do? You feel how you feel. That sort of stuff rubbed me the wrong way. And whether she really meant it specifically in this situation or not, or if she was just talking about something else in her life or her breakup to like get with this dude, I just, a lot of it just comes across as like, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? Like, why you got to act like this? You have all the talent in the world. Just have people go to what's the guy's name? Somebody like Max Martin that did all the Britney Spears songs and like every other major pop song you heard in the 2000s. Like, just go to people like that, have them write you bangers and sell a
Max
million
Martin did this
records.
one.
Was this all him?
This was Max Martin.
Oh my God. I should have looked that up because that I would have thought this was not as like big and bright of a like dance record as I thought it was going to be, as I think she typically releases. I don't know. I haven't really gone through full albums, but thematically it was all in tune with each other, as far as what the songs were about, how she was singing them and things like that. But I just was never able to really buy into the songwriting. I was never able to really buy into anything she was kind of saying. Like even the songs that were supposed to be just fun weren't really that fun, because the rest of the album just was real sour.
And funny that you say sour, because the comparison I made the most throughout this listening experience was Olivia Rodrigo, because when she sings about somewhat cliche stuff, it sounds completely fresh, and I
Mhm,
believe every single word she says. When she sings Vampire, I feel that shit deep down in my soul.
mhm,
So that's like a big comparison I made on this, because it's so plastic. Like Ariana Grande really is like, I'm sure this is sexist of me to say, but it's like a doll that you
mhm,
literally take out of the box and wind up and make her do her thing. That's like an awful thing to say, I'm sure, but that's how this album sounded. It's so plastic. Uh, You talk about the reviews. I do the same thing. I take my listen, I make my notes, and then I want to kind of like bounce my interpretation off of what other people are saying.
mhm,
The people that love this are calling it lush and praising the songwriting. And it's like the ghost of good ideas permeates this entire thing. And in theory, I like her. She's not talentless. One thing I will say, you brought up Taylor Swift, at least Taylor Swift can write a hook. Ariana Grande does like the songwriting is sorely lacking. The voice is
Mhm.
there, but like you have the problem of these are just not especially well-written songs. The lyrics are not that good, and the delivery is totally flat. It's flat as piss on a rock.
Mhm.
It just had so much going against it, and Lush, everything felt like it was compressed onto one plane, coming at you in one strip. So instead of like the wall of sound and texture and layers and flourishes, there was like none of that. These felt
Mhm.
like they were bordering on demos. And it's disappointing because Ariana Grande has a great voice, and when she like lets it out, it's fantastic. You get
Mhm.
a like super duper funky ass song like Bye,
Mhm.
and it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't like it is such a funky song, which by the way kind of becomes the hustle at the end of the bridge. But it's such a funky like silk sonic sound, and then you just put her in there with this like deadpan. It's
Mhm.
like the equivalent of watching the movie Megan, just like watching her and like listening to her. It's just so, like, mechanical, and that is what's so frustrating about it, is there's this soulful voice and clearly an instinct for, like, more soulful sound. It's what she should be doing, and she's just doing the plastic pop stuff, and it's just a whiff. It's a huge whiff. I don't see what people see in it.
Mhm. And I feel like it's just a regular schmegular pop album. You know what I mean? Like that's the feeling I get from it. I was like, I didn't expect I guess I don't expect her to be on the level of like an Olivia Rodrigo or or a Charlie XCX when it comes to like just able to write a song that I'm gonna also be able to connect to a little bit. I guess she also wants to sing down in that really kind of low register, that whisper kind of register. Billie Eilish does that perfectly. Like Bury a Friend is fantastic. And that's such a perfect example of like what Ariana Grande was trying to do on a lot of these songs by having that kind of low register and like more of that kind of trying to sound like sultry or whatever. And I just really I feel like she's so much better served when she can sing low, but like project it. She's got such a powerful voice that it's such a waste when it's not like on display. And especially in a song where I feel like if she had decided to just kind of let it rip on that one specifically by that you were talking about, it would have probably made it 10 times better. It may have even turned it into a song that like deserves to be a hit. Cause that's another thing is I don't know if I really hear a hit on here other than Yes and was the one that's kind of taken over the world. But the rest of them, I don't think has really taken off. And this album has been out for a bit. Like Beyonce released 2 new songs, and those things are both getting like millions of views, millions of listens, I should say. I feel like the response to this album is it's going to be completely forgotten by the time Beyonce releases that country album. By the time we really get anything from another major artist like Dua Lipa when her album comes out, I think is going to dwarf the response to this.
I would agree with that. It's because this thing is kind of like it's empty calories. I think
Mhm.
people are gonna probably move on from it pretty quickly. And yet she's incredibly well received, and this album being incredibly well received, it's just like it's pitched as the divorce slash transition into a new romance album. I have looked a little bit into the timeline on her and this SpongeBob guy. He played SpongeBob SquarePants in the SpongeBob SquarePants musical.
Yeah.
It's like losers all the way down. I truly don't get it. But so I like looked at the timeline of this, and it's always been like not outright confirmed and kind of trying to dodge the accusations of homewrecker,
Mhm.
which I'm not going to hold that against her. I hold it more against him than her. Even if
Yes.
she like full on pursued and was like, whatever Lola wants, Lola gets, and like full on
Mhm.
vixen and like really tried to last temptation of Christ him. Even if she did that, even if she was devious, it was on him
Mhm.
to not fuck around on his wife of 1 year who just had their kid.
Yeah.
So I think he's a scumbag. He fucked up his own family. He could have had the power to be like, I know Ariana Grande's throwing herself at me, but
Yeah.
you know. Um, so like looking at the timeline and kind of looking into the backstory of this, it's very personal stuff that got made public. And then you get this album and she does nothing with it.
Mhm.
She does nothing creative with it. I mean, like, you have so much material there. One thing you can say, Starcrossed was a botched breakup album, divorce album, but at least it tried to do interesting things, except for the
Mhm.
disastrous Cherry Blossom offensive Japanese song, which we don't talk about. But like, you have all this personal material and you get lyrics like, I'm too much for you. So I really got to do the thing I don't want to do. No, I don't. And then you have, what's that other one? It's crazy. I got to find it. It's those infuriating listen, like that babble. What is it? Oh, give me love, give me love. True story. That is an ironically hysterical song. It's like a parody.
Yeah, and that's I feel like she could also the sense of humor in this is when she's taking, like, jabs at people. And I feel like there's a place for having some, like, sense of humor and self-awareness in your music without having to lash out as much as I feel like is going on with this, especially when, like, I mean, if she was the one that was wronged, I would say, "Okay, yeah, throw some darts back out at him." But you were talking about the timeline about when all this happened, and it is on him. You're correct. But she can't she can't sit there and be like, why is she mad? Why is she so mad? It's
Stupid
like
bitch.
you can't, yeah. I mean, it's just you can't be like, yeah, we should move on when you're the one that like stomped on on her foot. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like the aggressor can't be the one that's like, we'll let bygones be bygones. We're good, right? Water under the bridge. You don't really it's not your place to say that. And that's what really just kind of rubs me the wrong way about a lot of this is because she's like, oh, someday you'll love me again. I remember that part. They're like, you hate me now, you got your papers and pens, but someday you'll love me again, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, that is just so, you got to at least pretend you care, that you just like destroyed this woman's life. You know what I mean? Like, how you have to be so far past like sociopath, I think, to get to a point where you're like, you do this, and then within months of this all happening, you decide to release an album being like, is it really that big a deal? Like, everybody does this.
Well, and it's such a completely fucked up flex to have that be the situation, right? Like, if you want to, it's just simple shorthand to call her a homewrecker. But you do homewrecker, and everyone's mad at you. And within the context of this album, Yes and is a song that's basically like a classic archetype. You want a bad guy? I can be your bad guy. We've
Mhm.
seen it from Billie Eilish to Nicki Minaj. And, it's one of those where you can't change people's minds. So why not be the thing? Like, why try to live up to anyone else's standards? And just, I'll be the bad guy. I'll play your villain. And it's like, well, that's a fucked up thing to choose to do when you did a homewrecker. So it falls flat on its face from that. It does look petty. And again, we don't know the circumstances. Did she go whole hog, or was this two to tango, or did she take some convincing? Based on the dudes she dates, I doubt it. She probably looked at him and licked her chops and rubbed her hands together and went, the dumpiest guy in the place, and he shall be mine. It's a
They just
weird flex.
and have you seen that people think that he looks like her brother and that's why she likes him?
Oh, ew. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Do me a favor and look up, just Google
Oh,
Ariana
no.
Grande's brother, because
Okay.
you have in your mind what Ethan Slater looks like, right?
Yes, I have a photographic
Okay.
memory. No, not to brag, but I'm better
Okay.
than you
I
guys.
want so you need to be the one talking right now so that when you see it, it's you talking and your reaction.
Okay.
So keep us
Let's
updated.
see. Okay, Ariana Grande brother. Um, I personally don't see it. I see
Get out of
similar.
here.
I personally don't see it.
Well, look for it. It's way more interesting if you believe it. So just talk
Oh,
yourself
right.
into
Okay, let's edit that part out. Oh my god. I don't
it.
believe it. That sick twist.
Yes, there's a lot
Dude.
of people that believe that she's with him because he looks like her brother.
I mean, her brother's a beautiful man with lethally feathered hair and a good dye job and a nice shapely beard. But ugly fucking guy in theory. But this dude. Listen, I understand Mac Miller was not a handsome guy, but he had charisma. Pete Davidson is a disaster. He's like Beetlejuice's fucking
I think
aloof stepson.
all he's got is charisma.
He has BDE, and like women for some reason like that scuzzball and they like Machine Gun Kelly. And it's like, all right, well, I can somewhat contextualize that because you get the cool guy tattoos and the hair job.
Mhm.
But this Ethan Slater guy takes the fucking cake. He looks like a rat. He looks like a rodent. He's
He
all
he
fucked up.
he looks like a theater kid.
Correct. Yes. He
Yeah.
is the ultimate theater kid energy. I want to punch him in the face.
And you would know.
Oh, I would know. I
You would
would know.
know.
I theater kid energy grazed me a little bit. Kind of caught it.
Yeah,
Let me
it's
talk to you.
I think she's a disaster. I didn't think this album was a disaster, but I'm gonna say stream it for this one for me. And it's really not strong. I don't think for me it wasn't bad enough to say skip it. I have a feeling I know what you're about to say though.
I just want to read you some lyrics.
Please do.
Yet you played me like Atari. Now it's like I'm looking in the mirror. Hope you feel all right when you're in her.
that was a that was particularly egregious.
I
That was
mean,
bad.
come the fuck on. And that's what's so frustrating is every song to the man has dog shit lyrics, which fuck it up totally. It's Duran Duran syndrome where there's like two things you like and one thing that fucks them both up bad. Two interesting things and one thing that's just diabolically shitty. And that is all over this because there are little flashes like the song Supernatural. Supernatural kind of lends you an image, right? Like you think
Mhm.
about like Spooky House from Traumazine, whatever it
Yeah.
was, the Megan the
Yeah,
Stallion Spooky
but
House.
what is she really talking about?
Supernatural
Yeah.
in this one about how the song is flatter than a plate of piss. It's supernaturally bad. It's supposed to be a vibe. Grandpa's Spooky Halloween Party from Miley Cyrus, at least that was a vibe. It's a terrible song, but it's a vibe. Supernatural, and it's this cupcake fart about infidelities. I can't really root for the sentiment when this is about the dude she did a home wreck with. I can't get behind it, and it's frustrating because she does the cotton candy voice, but you hear glimpses of that kind of. Huh. Let me ask you this: what are your favorite Mariah Carey songs and most memorable ones? The ones where she does the breathy bullshit?
No, definitely Honey is one. I think that song's great.
For me, the all-time is Fantasy. When I think about Mariah Carey,
Yeah.
Fantasy's the first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
She just lets it all hang out in that one. And it's like
Yeah.
Ariana Grande has a Ferrari in the garage with that voice, and she just does the whole thing breathy. There were glimpses of fun stuff, the funkiness on Bye.
Mhm.
There were glimpses of interesting things. The one hook she came up with is a terrible hook. Imperfect for you. Imperfect for you. She had the audacity. Not that I hold this album in super any higher regard than the next guy because I'm not a fucking Beatles snob, but she had the audacity to compare this to Rubber Soul. She said this is her Rubber Soul. I would like to beat her with the rubber sole of her own shoe for saying that.
That is that yeah, that's too much. That's
That's
gone that's too far.
that's beyond the pale. Too greasy for me,
Yeah.
Cyrus.
Yeah, that's and did you notice like the imperfect for you is also if you do another space there, it's I'm perfect for you.
I'm perfect for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
I
the
hate that.
soundtrack to toxicity. Like I really kind of convinced myself over the course of this conversation. I came in being like, I was fair to the album. I went in with an open mind. I listened to it multiple times before I pronounced the judgment. Now I must swing the sword. The man who pronounces the judgment, passes the sentence, must swing the sword. And
Mhm.
I've convinced myself in this conversation that this is kind of a scumbag anthem album. And all of the people kind of celebrating it as like this very like highly emotional achievement in songwriting are woefully misguided. If you want to take her side or think she did nothing wrong or be like the hate is overblown, that's just like your opinion, man. But I happen to disagree with the idea that like using that in such a clunky way, using the backlash and trying to insulate herself from it by adopting a bad guy persona that's basically flaunting that she was party to a home wrecking. That's an incredibly poor taste. Um, so for that reason alone, I can't condone this. And then on top of it, shitty songwriting. If it was super duper interesting, like if Beyonce did something like this, it would kill, it would crush. That new Beyonce country album is going to smush. I know already I'm going to love it because that's a craftswoman. Ariana
Mhm.
Grande has access to the same kind of facilities and the same kind of personnel. And somehow this came out. I'll say it for the hat trick on the episode, flatter than piss on a rock. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a hearty skip it.
Ooh, that is strong. And I will say Hinder did this concept a lot better with Lips of an Angel.
It's
I will
really good
just
to hear your voice.
well, did you have any final thoughts for this episode?
You know, I'm plumb out. I did my ranting.
Yeah, it's empty. I got it all out of my ears. Yeah, we're good. Well, make sure you go to youtube.com/c/out on that line if you're not there already. And if you are there, or once you get there, subscribe down below. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear. And until next time.